I remember the first time I saw fire, not the gentle flame of a torch or the disciplined spark of a hearth, but the raw, living blaze that tore through the forest one night like a wild spirit unbound. I was young, perhaps not even human in the sense we use the word now. The world was older then, and so was I. My hands were bare, my thoughts unfinished, my language not yet a language. But my eyes, they were awake. It began with a sound, a crack like bones splintering in the dark, followed by a light that did not belong to the sky. It came from the earth, from the very breath of the world. I hid behind the stones, trembling, watching trees turn to ghosts of themselves. Their black silhouettes swallowed by a furious brightness. The air itself seemed to scream. The animals fled, but I could not. I watched, I stayed. The heat licked my skin, and I felt fear. The kind of fear that lives at the root of all living things. Yet beneath that fear, something else began to burn. A question, perhaps, or a hunger. I had seen the stars, of course. We all had. We would lie on our backs at night, staring upward, wondering what they were. But they were distant, unreachable. They belonged to the gods, or to no one at all. This Thawaryov, this fire, was different. It had fallen among us. It hissed, it devoured, it danced. It was the sun here on earth. And I remember thinking, as the smoke drifted across the valley and the sky turned red, if the gods would not come down to us, then perhaps we would go to them. For days after, I walked among the ashes. The forest had become a graveyard of blackened trunks and scorched stones. The earth was still warm beneath my feet. When I pressed my hand to the ground, it felt as though something inside it still lived, a quiet pulse, deep and patient. I found a branch, charred at one end. The black tip crumbled when I touched it, leaving streaks across my fingers. I brought the soot to my nose and smelled the memory of what it once was. The faint echo of life transformed into heat and smoke. I did not yet know what chemistry was, or combustion, or carbon. But I understood that something had changed. Something had been released. That night the air was cold. The stars above flickered like old embers, and I thought again of the blaze. Was the fire a punishment, a test, or was it a secret waiting to be discovered by anyone foolish enough to look too closely? When I slept, I dreamed of hands reaching into the flame and pulling something from it. Not pain, but power. I saw faces illuminated in orange light. I saw shadows dancing on cave walls like living thoughts, and I woke with the certainty that I had seen the future, though I could not yet name it. So I tried. I struck stones together. I blew on dry grass until my lungs ached. I watched the sparks die again and again, but the memory of that first fire would not let me rest. It called to me in silence, like a whisper from an ancestor I had never met. The others thought me mad. They spoke of curses, of spirits. You will burn, they said. Perhaps they were right. But I had seen the world without fire, cold, blind, and voiceless. I had seen what we were before light touched us. I wanted to see what we could be after. It happened one morning beneath a sky heavy with smoke from a distant storm. The clouds flashed with distant lightning, white veins in a bruised sky. I was sitting by the stones again, the same two I had carried from the river, flat and pale like the bones of the world. When the spark came, I almost missed it. A momentary flash, like the blink of a god, then the faintest wisp of smoke. I leaned close, too close, and the ember flared to life, a small, trembling thing, as if afraid of its own existence. I fed it gently, as one might feed a newborn. Dry grass, bark, the edge of a leaf. It grew, hesitated, and then, suddenly, it became a tongue of light, a sound like breath. The first fire born not from the sky, but from our hands. I watched it move, hypnotized. The way it bent and reached. The way it consumed and gave warmth in the same moment. It was alive, a creature of pure hunger and beauty. And when I reached toward it, the pain was immediate searing. I pulled back, my hand blistered, and yet I smiled. The fire had bitten me, yes, but it had also spoken. It told me that nothing in this world could be given without cost. That creation and destruction were twins, forever bound. And in that instant I understood. To hold fire was to hold the power of the stars, but also the memory of loss. That night we gathered around it. My tribe, my family, stared in awe. For the first time, the darkness fled before us. Faces that had been hidden became visible again. Eyes glowed like amber. Shadows danced in silent rhythm. We were no longer creatures of the night. We were something new. The fire changed everything. It cooked our food, warmed our bones, hardened our tools. But more than that, it gave us stories. The flames became our first screen, our first dream. We saw gods in the sparks, animals in the smoke. We began to imagine. I think that was the true theft. Not the flame itself, but what it lit inside us. As the years passed, I learned that fire was both gift and judgment. It obeyed no master. It devoured forests and cities alike. It purified and it destroyed. We built our world around it, and then within it. I remember the first forge, the first time metal softened beneath our control, the scent of iron, the hiss of molten ore. We called it progress, though we did not yet know what that word meant. Then came the lamps, the engines, the rockets. We carried our fire from the caves to the heavens. We lit the night with suns of our own making. But sometimes I wonder, did we ever truly tame it? Or did we only teach it new languages to speak in? Now it hums in the circuits of our cities. It glows in the heart of every reactor, every screen, every machine that hums like a captive star. It powers our words, our wars, our dreams. We have become the keepers of an unending flame. And yet, the same fear still lingers. When I look into a burning city or a glowing filament, I see the same light I saw as a child. Beautiful, merciless, alive. The same question returns. Was it meant to be ours? I have come to believe that fire was never stolen at all. It was offered, given freely, though we mistook it for conquest. The gods, if they ever existed, must have smiled when they saw us take it. Because in that act, in that reckless reaching, we became something they could no longer control. We became creators. We became destroyers. We became aware. Now, when I sit by the quiet flame of a candle, I feel the same pulse that moved through that first spark in the forest. The same heartbeat that drives stars to burn and galaxies to spin. We are still chasing that light, endlessly, hopelessly, beautifully. Sometimes I imagine my ancestors gathered around that first fire. Their faces lit, their fears softened. They must have felt the same mixture of terror and wonder that I feel now when I look upon the glowing cities of Earth from orbit, or when I watch lightning crawl across the clouds of Jupiter through a telescope's glass eye. The same story, repeated in new forms. We see light, we reach for it, we are changed. What is humanity, if not the story of fire learning to think? Every idea, every invention, every dream, all of it is an ember from that same flame. We have built civilizations from sparks and ash. We have burned and rebuilt and burned again. But even in ruin, the light survives. Perhaps the real miracle is not that we stole fire, but that it never left us. It burns in our atoms, in the synapses of our brains, in the heat of every heartbeat. It is the signature of life itself, energy made aware of its own existence. And so, to those who come after me, I offer this. When you touch the flame, do not fear it. Respect it. Listen to it. It speaks the oldest language in the universe, the language of transformation. It will remind you that creation and destruction are not opposites, but mirrors. That every act of light casts a shadow. That to hold fire is to hold responsibility for what it illuminates. Remember this, we were creatures of darkness once. Then we reached out trembling and found the light. We feared. We learned. We became.